One man, one mission, to rid the world of chronic anxiety once and for all. The anxiety guy, Dennis Simsek, shares his personal transformation from living a life filled with overwhelming worry to becoming a full-fledged positivity machine, a leading authority in generalized anxiety. Dennis gets to the truth of your mental health challenges and sets you on a path to transforming each and every area of your life. Here he is, the one and only, the anxiety guy.
If you are depressed, you are living in the past. If you are anxious, you are living in the future. If you are at peace, you are living in the present. That's a quote from Lao Tzu. It's important to recognize how your current anxiety disorder is affecting the main aspects of your life and have a good idea of how you want your life to look 2 years from now. Successful progression is a necessary need for everyone, and if we don't see progress in the many areas of our lives, it will spread to everything else, which leads to many negative emotions. These emotions can fuel your anxiety even further and will ultimately lead to depression. Let's take a look at the 7 main aspects of your life that may be currently out of balance for you and how I will be able to help you get them back on track. Health. Dizziness, shortness of breath, tingling in the arms, tightness in the chest. Do these sound familiar to you? What about all of those medical tests to see if what you are feeling could be a real health concern, but all of them coming back saying nothing is wrong? Good news, but what if they missed something? What about this new symptom that wasn't there before? Maybe a different doctor and some new tests will find out what it is. Or a prescription to take the next time you feel those symptoms again. Welcome to the wonderful world of anxiety. People with generalized anxiety disorder and panic go through life worrying about just about everything, analyzing what's going on in their inner world much more than they notice what is happening in their outer world. Their health takes a beating in the form of muscle tension, headaches, irritability, chronic fatigue, trembling, nausea, profuse sweating, and many other symptoms that interfere in the many aspects of our lives. When these things happen, the worst possible scenario is usually the first to pop into their mind, which obviously never comes true. I want to use myself as an example of this. In my 6-year struggle with generalized anxiety disorder and panic, I can honestly say that not one time did any of my worries about my health concerns come true. What a waste of time and energy. At the time, though, I felt if I didn't have a tight grip over my life and have an instant solution to my overwhelming sensations that were being fueled by my fear and worry, I thought I would completely lose control over my mind or even worse, my body. My overall health was failing, as I am sure the over 20 million Americans diagnosed with GAD are thinking as well. But was it really? How could I, after 6 years of struggle, come through and get to full recovery with no signs of any wear or tear from the debilitating symptoms of anxiety? Who was that man I once was? I will often wonder that. Scared, dreading each day, looking for lumps on my body. Yes, those were dark days, but I assure you that if I can get through them and emerge at the end of it all a new person, so can you. Where focus goes, energy flows, someone once told me. And I started to ask myself, why the heck was I so focused on what I didn't want, when I needed to start focusing on what I did want in order to get my failing health back to where I needed it to be? The fear of recurring panic attacks and fear of the unknown, such as heart attack, cancer, etc., lead anxious people into a world with limited possibilities. And they will eventually realize that everything in their lives is crashing down around them, and they have nowhere to turn. It wasn't until I fully accepted that I had an anxiety disorder that I was able to start turning my struggles around. It wasn't easy. How can you fully accept that a panic attack that comes out of the blue, or heart palpitations that feel like your heart is going to burst out of your chest, is absolutely nothing? By learning the facts, that's how you can accept it. Adrenaline is a hormone produced by the adrenal gland, and it is released by the body in times of stress, anxiety, and fear. It is a protective hormone that sets off the fight or flight response. Increased heart rate and rapid breathing are due to an adrenaline rush. The hormone cortisol is also produced by the adrenal gland, but this hormone works to help the body recover from the adrenaline rush and restore energy levels that have gone down after dealing with all of that adrenaline. Other factors like lack of sleep can also cause the release of cortisol, and many times the body releases this hormone when it is totally unnecessary. By recognizing the roles that the protective and recovery hormones play in your body, the better your understanding of why you're reacting to stress the way you are will be. Next, let's take a look at your social life. Let's face it, everyone tries to be strong and act like nothing ever goes badly in their life. But in reality, we all struggle and need help once in a while. It's okay to cry, laugh, and ask for help because no one is perfect. That's a quote from Alison Lay. I don't know about you, but my social life was pretty non-existent during my anxiety disorder. What happened to that fearless, outgoing person I once was? I often thought to myself. Agoraphobia, which most of the time accompanies a panic or anxiety disorder to some degree, is an avoidance of situations or places that could be difficult to escape or put you in the spotlight during a panic attack. This problem could be one of the reasons you tend not to be the social butterfly you wish to be. The thought of simply going for a coffee with a friend brings with it many potential worries for a person who has high levels of anxiety and experiences panic attacks. Some of these worries could be wondering if you might sit too far away from the door and the washroom just in case, or thinking about how you might socialize and be able to check in how you are feeling just in case something else is wrong. Will others pick up on your worrying and not want to be around you or your friend anymore? Or worse, will they think that you're crazy? People with social anxiety fear and avoid situations in which they may be judged by others. Limited social opportunities while growing up, as well as overprotective parents, could have contributed to the way your social life looks at the moment. However, if you think about it for a second, if you are like me and really want to interact with people and feel like you are significant in the world and people like being around you, what skills do you currently have that others don't? How did you come to own that skill that others don't do as well as you? When you are not running around in panic, of course. Well, you built it up. I remember a kid in high school by the name of Daryl who I really admired and wanted to be like in so many ways. He was popular, girls loved him, and he was never short of a witty comment. I remember having a conversation with Daryl once, and he told me that he had been involved in drama and had taken acting classes since he was a young boy, and that he developed his skills in interacting with others and his sense of humor through those classes. Daryl had a talent for acting that not everyone had, and he used it to his advantage when interacting with others. What talent or skill do you have that you may be overlooking? At this point in your life, if you feel that socially you are not where you want to be, it is important. The next 2 chapters are very important, and I suggest listening to them a few times over. Remember, repetition is the mother of all skill. The more you listen, understand, and apply, the clearer your vision will be, and the faster you will be able to desensitize yourself from your fears and your worries. Understanding the causes of your anxiety is a huge step in your recovery process. A great deal of our mental health is developed by our life experiences, as the research suggests. The common belief in the past that chronic anxiety can only be treated with prescribed medicine is being debated in great detail, which is the reason many sufferers are working with their healthcare providers to slowly pull away from antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications, and follow programs such as this one. This program will help get your mind out of your current condition with potentially very little effort, so that you may again be a part of reality and be able to stop the fear and negativity cycle that is controlling your life. Let's look at the stress component. One of the most common reasons people develop an anxiety disorder is due to prolonged stress. A feeling of having to do something that you don't enjoy, such as your career, getting in your beat-up car each morning, being in a relationship that isn't fulfilling, are all factors that add to your overall stress level daily. Then, as one brick is laid on top of another over a long period of time, this intense dislike and daily stress can snowball and affect each and every part of your life. This can then lead to having GAD, panic attacks, and ultimately depression. The reaction and the way you cope with stress plays a very important role in overcoming an anxiety disorder, and some people are just more sensitive to stress than others. There are many natural ways that stress can be managed and overcome, which we will be looking at in detail later on. Now, it's important to touch on the subject of chemical imbalance and the connection it has with anxiety disorders. Fortunately, as mentioned earlier, there is new evidence pointing to the fact that many forms of depression and anxiety disorders are not a result of a chemical imbalance in the brain. Sadly, many people have been tricked by the claims that in order to fix their anxious state or depressive condition, they need to fix the chemical imbalance in their brain. This explains why so many people grow frustrated with taking the approach of trying to overcome their anxiety and depression through prescribed pills. The good news is that through these recent studies, we now realize that we have everything we need within ourselves to regain control of our mental health and life again. The chemical imbalance theory is led by the belief that a reduced availability of serotonin, dopamine, and GABA, which are all neurotransmitters in the brain, can cause chemical imbalances. However, I am not completely convinced one way or another, and do believe that antidepressant medications have a part to play in the recovery from anxiety and depression, only because I've seen people overcome many of their symptoms and change their mood through them. Let's also take into consideration the power of your mind. If a doctor tells you that a magic pill, if taken for a long period of time, will alter the chemicals in your brain, and you wholeheartedly believe that claim with great emotion and daily strength behind that belief, can you in fact overcome your anxiety disorder? Extremely possible. So the idea of excluding the use of doctor-prescribed pills to end your anxious and depressive state should not be dropped altogether, because as mentioned earlier, some things will work for some and not for others. I've put these two together due to the fact that people with GAD tend to be very active on forums, chats, and other websites, constantly searching for answers and seeing whether they are alone in their current struggles or not. They also look to friends and family members to dump their daily struggles on and fill them in on how bad they are feeling each and every day. There's a clear difference between the two. Researching and gaining knowledge that adds to your confidence through online sites and sharing your story to other sufferers worldwide, building on a friendly community of anxiety sufferers is a great idea. Looking to sites and chats as a crutch each and every time another aspect of anxiety shows its face in a new way to you is not. The problem with sharing your awful experiences and how bad you may be feeling with others is that not only do people not want to associate themselves with negative people after some time, it also reinforces your current beliefs over and over and over again. This becomes a daily route you go, and it's quite unhealthy for your thoughts and emotions. The key here is just to plain and simply stop talking about how you are currently feeling to others. Of course, having a support group that understands you is different. You may converse with them and tell them your successes of the day or week, and they may give you encouragement, and by educating themselves about your condition can be one of the strongest tools in your recovery. However, if you're dumping your problems on coworkers, friends, or your spouse on a daily basis, you might find that people start to distance themselves slowly from you. So make sure to pick your support group and let them and only them help you with your recovery and experiences in small doses. When it comes to researching online, again, it's important to build relationships with other sufferers and chat about things outside your anxiety disorder. But it's time to completely stop running to the internet each time something gets difficult or a new symptom arises. This one is a tricky one and can quickly turn your life into a prison. You find yourself avoiding places where you once had a stressful moment, felt dizzy, felt anxiety, or might have had a full-blown panic attack. As mentioned previously, confidence is extremely important to building momentum on your road to recovery. And the only way to build confidence is to stop avoiding and start doing the things you fear gradually. Does that mean that you step into a box full of spiders for a full minute right away? No. Start with an intention. Decide that you will not avoid something anymore and take baby steps each day to conquer that fear. There's a clear difference between doing things that help you cope with your anxiety and doing things that will eventually end your anxiety. The latter is more difficult, but much more rewarding. Remember, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So are you facing a fear in the right way? Or are you putting one foot in and then running away, thinking you've made strides to ending your fear? I'm going to give you an example of a time where I feared something so much I avoided it at all costs. During my struggle with GAD and panic disorder, I feared the sensations of a fast-pounding heart so much that I did everything I could to avoid it. But there came a day when I had hit a wall, and crying in my bed from the torturous life I was living, I did something that I never thought I'd do. I drank 2 large cups of coffee in the morning and set out to conquer the world. Nothing brought out a full-on panic attack for me the way coffee did, but I was so fed up that I said, no more, bring it on. Using all the built-up emotion and energy I had that day, I went for a run and a bike ride and fully accepted the feeling of panic as it came, and I said, if it's going to kill me, then that is what will have to happen. The idea of living one more second in fear drove me to drink loads of caffeine so I could face what I feared most, a panic attack, and what I thought it would eventually lead to, my death, but that wasn't the case. That day became a huge morale booster for me. Now the next chapter is very important. Full recovery from chronic anxiety can be summed up like this. GAD and panic are the result of a psychological tendency to worry excessively for an extended period of time. The most effective way to overcome GAD and get to a regular level of anxiety, which is, in fact, necessary in daily life, is to follow the 6 steps to recovery. Number 1, complete acceptance. Accept that what you have is related to anxiety and nothing more. Number 2, becoming knowledgeable. Educate yourself about generalized anxiety disorder and panic attacks and how and why they happen. Number 3, building on the facts. Build confidence and self-esteem from looking at your current and past fears and recognizing that none of them have ever come true and won't ever come true. Number 4, taking action. Make an action plan and implement it so that your daily rituals, routines add fuel to what your overall goal is, complete recovery from your anxiety disorder. Number 5, accepting setbacks. Realize that 2 steps forward and 1 step back is still putting you on the right track. Negative thoughts, physical sensations of anxiety, and panic attacks will creep up from time to time, but see them as just a bump on the road and nothing more. Number 6, patience. There is no set time that recovery will be achieved. Remember this. So be ready to work with time. Let it pass and don't judge your progress by each day, but see it as a week to week. Remember that anyone who ever wanted to achieve a goal did it over time and not in an instant. Now, by recognizing how we are adding to our high levels of anxiety and the causes of our panic attacks, we can gain confidence and stop the cycle of panic before it gets going to the point where it becomes difficult to control. We are who we are through our daily rituals. So by changing these rituals to help ourselves have a safer view of the world and add to our positive health, we are also cutting the supply lines that add to our GAD and panic. Understand this. The mindset we approach our recovery with is very important. By looking at recovery as a long-term plan, we become less disappointed in temporary setbacks. As we gradually approach our fears and overcome them, we build on facts that help us realize the truth to all our worries, and that is that what we fear most will not come true. Only one thing registers on the subconscious mind: repetitive application, practice. What you practice is what you manifest. That's a quote from Faye Weldon. The human brain is the most complex object in the universe and still puzzles many scientists these days. As long as you remain in control of your mind, you have the capability of not only getting your life back from GAD and panic disorder, but truly living a magnificent life. You can look back thinking how and why you spent so much energy and gave so much respect to your current worries. So how does your mind really work? In simplest terms, there are two parts to your mind. Part one is our conscious mind. The conscious mind is the rational or the logical mind. Your conscious mind analyzes and compares what it is currently experiencing with what it has experienced in the past and directs your focus. It analyzes problems and helps us solve those problems. The other part of our mind is the subconscious mind. It can't distinguish what the conscious mind imagines and that which is real, which brings much truth to the words, "Be careful what you wish for." Your subconscious mind also holds your short-term memory and plays a key role in your day-to-day functioning. Your subconscious filters out the unnecessary information and delivers only what is needed at that moment, and is constantly at work, staying very aware of your surroundings at every moment. The amygdala is a part of the subconscious mind and deals with emotions, memory processing, and how we react to fear and stressful triggers. Research has shown that it is in fact possible to talk to the amygdala during hypnosis. This completely relaxes the stress response and calms the nervous system so that your immune system and body can heal and rebuild. When the conscious and subconscious minds are working in harmony, the mind becomes productive, creative, and healthy in its endeavors. However, when this harmony is unbalanced, the mind becomes dysfunctional and leads to a destructive collapse. So we now know a little bit about how our mind functions. How can we use the mind to become our greatest ally on our road to recovery from an anxiety disorder? We can now safely say that anxiety is a behavioral pattern which is maintained through a continuous process of learning and conditioning. We also know that the conditioning process is under the control of the subconscious mind, and that the conscious mind cannot affect our subconscious or its conditioned responses. There was a great story I ran into that gives a great example of this. A man experienced anxiety and erectile dysfunction during sexual relationships with his wife, although he admitted that he only had the problem at home in his own bedroom. It transpired that several years earlier, he'd had an affair with another woman. One day her husband had caught them and beaten him up. The bizarre aspect of the matter was that the wallpaper in his own and his lover's bedroom was exactly the same. Each time he tried to make love with his wife, the wallpaper in his own bedroom served as a reminder of the beating. and the anxiety which this produced made him impotent. So what it comes down to is this. If you are consistently worrying about your health, for example, your conscious mind continuously focuses on the lack of health that you have. It attaches an emotion to it, which in this case is fear, and it is stored in the subconscious mind as reality. This belief now emits a vibratory output conducive to lack and begins to influence your life, events, and circumstances based around the belief. This brings us to the conclusion that by reconditioning your subconscious mind, we can rewire all the programs that are currently running your current physical world. And if we don't tap into the power of your subconscious, then we are going to be missing out on a huge part of recovery from anxiety, maybe the biggest one of all. There are 2 ways to powerfully reprogram your subconscious mind that I'm sure you've heard of, but knowing something and putting it into action to feel the benefits in your physical world are 2 different things. These must be done consistently, setting aside anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour of your time each day to take for yourself. Now, these 2 ways are visualization. The images that you hold in your mind stimulate the subconscious into accepting them as part of reality, which then directs your behavior accordingly. When using visualization, it's important to combine all your senses in the scene, as well as see yourself in the picture as well. Mantras. You can create new pathways in your subconscious by reaffirming what you want repeatedly with great emotion behind it. It's important not to brush off the power of these 2 tools to reprogram your subconscious if you tried them before without results. In my own recovery, I used these daily and couldn't believe the difference it made in the new way I was approaching situations that would anger me in the past. Persevere and you will experience the same results. Lastly, think of your mind as a computer. If somebody annoys you, the installed program of anger will be launched, and the result could possibly be a behavior that you may regret later on. By reprogramming your subconscious mind, you will fix many of the feared responses that you currently have. Remember again, the subconscious mind learns by quality repetition, not by logic. Decisions. No one has accomplished much before without first making a clear decision of what they want and a plan of how to get it. The same goes for overcoming anxiety disorders. Unfortunately, we can't set a specific deadline as to when we want to be free of GAD and panic disorder, since everyone recovers at different speeds. However, as I learned on my own road to recovery, many things in this world are truly out of our control. But we do have control over something, and that is our mind. At this moment, does it feel like you have no control over your thoughts? I was in the same boat until I read this fact. In an average day, we have 70,000 thoughts cross our mind. So does this mean that other people have negative and fearful thoughts the way anxious people do? Yes. So then what's the difference? We are more sensitive to those fearful and negative thoughts than most people is what it really comes down to. We fear the fact that we might die from a feeling of tightness in the chest, whereas others recognize that as a normal bodily response to a stressful situation, and it is nothing to be feared. In the end, making a decision is the ultimate guide, and with the plan outlined in this program, there's no stopping you on your recovery. The decision and plan will shape your future to be just the way you want it to be, but only if it is accompanied by a third element, and that is focus. You have a choice of what you want to focus on every second of your life. You have a choice whether to focus on the past, present, or the future, the nice side or the mean side of a person, the beauty of this world or the ugly side of it. Focus can also be tested when something difficult happens in your life. For example, you go 3 days without having a panic attack and decide it is time to get over the social side of your anxiety and accept a request to go out to dinner with friends. as uncomfortable as that may be. The first hour goes great, but then dizziness sets in, negative thoughts creep in, and you find yourself making an excuse to leave dinner early. So how do you view a night like that? Will you focus on the achievements that you went 3 days without panic, had an amazing hour with friends that you haven't been able to do in a long time, or will you focus on the fact that things spiraled out of control, you left the dinner early, and you're a complete failure and only going backwards? In many cases, people with GAD and panic disorder will look at a night like this as a total failure. But if you can just focus on what an amazing job you've done to come that far, then you will continue to add those bricks one by one on top of each other, and eventually get to the outcome you want. No one will ever get different results if they continue doing the same things. It just doesn't work that way. You need to make a firm decision to stick to a set plan and focus on looking at certain events in your life less as failures but as achievements. There are other times where a quick decision must be made, and this could either swing things towards your recovery or take you further away. There have been studies done in the past that have shown that people with GAD and panic disorder have a much more difficult time making a firm decision during one of life's everyday routines, one way or the other, and can easily be caught in the middle and left completely confused. The answer to this confusion about which direction to take with your decisions would be to do two things: follow your passion and challenge yourself. For example, let's say you are forced with a decision to either walk or take the car to the nearest bookstore. Which one will challenge you and which one will add to your recovery from anxiety? Walking to your bookstore will help take your focus off of yourself and put it consciously to your outer world by noticing the beauty that surrounds you. Exercise is critical for your health as well as building confidence. So in this case, taking the road less traveled in the form of walking would be the smart choice. It challenges you and may or may not be your passion, whereas driving is the easier route that promotes a side of laziness and can in fact lead to more stress due to other drivers on the road, parking, etc. Oftentimes, especially in the case of people with an anxiety disorder, there is an avoidance of serious decision-making to avoid responsibility for the decision and the resulting outcome. Just like any skill that is developed, decision-making can be developed over time and by working on it frequently. Let's remember again that a great decision that is not acted on won't produce a positive result, but will instead destroy the trust of people in you and lower your credibility. What we want to eventually become are great decision makers that follow through on our decisions, and you have an amazing opportunity in front of you right here and now to fully commit to your full recovery from debilitating anxiety and take your life back. Be the person that people eventually turn to and ask for your opinion. Make a decision to be the person that steps in with confidence when a difficult situation presents itself and people are looking around for an answer. The habit of clinging on so tightly to even the simplest routines in our daily life can become so normal to us after a while that we don't even recognize how it's affecting us. Many of my past therapists as well as friends would always advise me to do breathing exercises to relax, but only when I was actually feeling relaxed in the first place would these breathing exercises be valuable. The problem was I was never relaxed. When I went out for dinner and the hostess said it would be a 10-minute wait, I would get totally annoyed, and tension would build with every agonizing minute of waiting. Subconsciously, I added unneeded tension to everything, and it became automatic for a while. How incredibly fatigued we are by the end of the day because of this. Even after a full day off from work, trying to get a rest day in, we think this will help. But in fact, we feel as tired at the end of the day as if we just put in a hard 8-hour workday. This section about loosening up your attitude goes hand in hand with the section on checking in, becoming conscious about our actions, conscious of our thought and emotions are all very foreign to someone suffering from GAD and panic attacks. Loosening up your attitude means to become conscious of your actions and emotions during your day, and not letting your negative subconscious wiring in the brain lead you to actions and emotions that cause unknown tension. It means that you treat the situation the way it needs to be treated and not add negatively to a rather simple scenario. Let's take an example of how I was able to loosen up my attitude. Each day before work, I would rush to beat the hectic lineup at my local breakfast place so I could grab a warm cup of tea to start my day off. When there was no line, I was thrilled and was in and out in a flash. However, when I was 6 or 7 cars back waiting in line just to grab a large cup of tea and maybe something to eat as well, my negative emotions instantly took over. Confusion led to anger, which led to more stress, which added tons of tension into my body, all because of a simple 10-minute wait. Of course, after a while, I just made tea at home before work. But looking at this example, I can tell you something for sure. You don't want to start your day off like this. Do you ever notice that in the past, the days that are better than others always have something to do with the way you started the day? This is kind of the time where your mind says, okay, feed me some information and show me an experience this morning so that I can figure out how I'd like the rest of your day to go. For anxious people, the morning is the most important part of the day and many times can build great momentum. So back to the example. What did I do to avoid the anger, the confusion, and the built-up tension in my body when I had to wait in line for an agonizing 10 minutes? I looked at the big picture and I used focused distraction to my advantage. The big picture was that in reality, 10 minutes of waiting was not going to make much of a difference in how my morning went. But I simply didn't think about the situation, I just reacted to it and fed it with stress. While I waited in that drive-thru, my strategy to take my attention off of the waiting in line was to put my headphones on and apply one of the 2 main points of focused distraction by listening to my personal favorite motivational speakers through my iPod. Focused distraction means being involved physically with something that gets your body moving and something that challenges you. But in this situation, where I wasn't able to get involved physically, I had to make sure that the other main point was there to take my focus off of the situation. My motivational download challenged me greatly because it got me thinking, and I was completely passionate about learning more about what they were speaking about. This got me one of the 2 main points. If you absolutely cannot apply something physical that gets you moving, make sure the challenging part is something that you are interested in enough to divert your focus to it. Next thing I knew, I was at the front receiving my tea and off I went, ready to get to work. Did this become a habit eventually in this situation? Absolutely. Those 10 minutes were used productively to follow the opposite path of self-torture, and I applied it to other areas of my life as well. For example, when I was at work coaching tennis, there were times where some people would cancel a tennis lesson just a few minutes before it would even start. This made me furious because not only could I have been doing something different during that time if I had only known sooner, and I was kind of a freak when it came to being early for work and communication. So when I wasn't getting a phone call at least 24 hours prior from someone, if they were going to cancel a lesson, I was not happy at all. So, of course, I became frustrated and I shared my frustration with anyone who was around me, and I carried it with me for the rest of the day, thinking, how could they do this to me? Again, this affected my anxious mind and my body greatly. I changed this by loosening my attitude again. I looked at the big picture instead of just reacting. How did this really affect me? Well, For starters, it actually gave me a chance to fuel my body with nutrients that it craved so badly due to the stress I always had put it under. And I took the attention off of the me thinking so much, and I thought to myself, have I done this in the past to people that I was teaching? Yes, I did. And could there have been some kind of emergency that might have really caused this person to cancel a tennis lesson last second? Sure. After that, I applied focused distraction again. I grabbed a large basket full of tennis balls and started practicing my serve on the tennis court. Physical. And I put up targets to try and aim for. Challenging. It must be challenging to divert your focus and energy away from negative thinking, an anxious moment, or a full-blown panic attack. Set a challenge to take a walk at a fairly fast speed for 30 minutes straight, rather than a slow 2-minute walk. This is just another way to challenge you, as well as apply the physical part of focused distraction more. Now, as you put the formula of seeing the big picture and consciously thinking about the situation, and if it should be affecting you the way it is, and then applying the focused distraction routine, you start to build a looser you. Things don't seem to be so bad, and your mind and body start to reward you for this new built-up habit by eliminating much unneeded stress in your thinking process and taking away all the tension that was being built up in your body. There is a fantastic quote that applies very well to this section that I'd like you to carry with you and remember. The quote is from Thomas A. Edison, and it goes like this: 5% of the people think, 10% of the people think they think, and the other 85% would rather die than think. I was part of the 85% of people that would rather die than think, and in return got what my worried mind thought I needed more of: fear, tension, and more worrying. That changed though, and I now can honestly say that living through GAD and panic disorder has made me a stronger person, one that has been able to apply my mind and change my reactions, which ultimately have led to loosening up my attitude. Depersonalization. Personally, I don't think that depersonalization disorder exists and believe that it is just another symptom of anxiety that can in time be overcome. Depersonalization can be described as a recurring feeling of detachment from one's body, as if it were in a dreamlike state and not really ever in touch with reality. Many people complain of a foggy or hazy view of the world through their own eyes with depersonalization, and this symptom cannot exist without anxiety. Depersonalization is caused by a mental shift in the part of the brain that is linked to the amygdala, which is the main organ responsible for anxiety. Cannabis, antidepressants, caffeine, and nicotine can all produce feelings resembling depersonalization, especially when taken in excess. It can also result from alcohol or benzo withdrawal. Daily life is turned into confusion at every corner. Thoughts slow down. A person's response to a simple question can feel extremely challenging, and the worst part of all this would be trying to explain the feelings to someone else who has never heard of depersonalization or felt anything quite like it. There is a fine line between wanting to get rid of the unreality feeling so much that you can taste it and tolerating it. The desire to get rid of this feeling can actually be adding stress and fear that actually maintains the feeling. Since our brains, our nervous system, can't process all this stress at once and delays are inevitable, it's important to think of the feeling of unreality as your nervous system forcing you to relax and forcing you to slow down. In this way, it becomes a protection circuit by the nervous system against further tension. Unfortunately, we don't see it this way. We experience it and assign an awful and horrible outcome to it, assuming it is a sign of impending insanity and loss of control. What is the best way to approach these awful feelings, you may be asking? Since we know that it is certainly related to stress, would you feel unreal while lying on the beach next to a supermodel, male or female, your choice, who was totally attracted to you? I highly doubt it. Your unreality would not exist in that situation, would it? You would forget about it and not be focusing so intensely on it. You can hate the unreal feeling, but acceptance is a must to break the habit of adding more stress to it. In my own experiences with the feeling of being detached to the world with no one to turn to, I had a very hard time competing at sports I loved due to the feeling of being off balance while walking, running, jumping, pretty much everything. The funny thing was, when I wasn't focused on it, I felt complete relief and escape from it completely. The two biggest factors that lead to the continuation of feelings of depersonalization are doubt and tension. Hiding from it and consciously doing everything you can to stop it adds greatly to the doubt and tension you experience, because as you probably already know, trying to stop symptoms of anxiety most of the time just does not work. The feeling of being isolated is extremely common as well, and you may feel a complete disconnection from friends and family. You may wonder why the heck you don't feel anything towards some of your closest family members, friends, pets, etc. But remember that you are not alone. For many years, I myself felt like I was in my own world with complete disconnection from everyone and everything that I actually should have felt more loving and caring towards. But depersonalization consumed my every move and my every thought. I hated it, but was powerless to stop it until I recognized how I was adding to it. The final words. Many people who fail to achieve a goal that they set out to accomplish fail because of one reason: frustration. They see a setback as a massive failure and become frustrated, and most of the time give up completely on their goal that they had set out for themselves. But not you. You see a setback as a roadblock that you swerve and learn from. You also notice that setbacks are just feedback for you that your panic and anxiety are on their heels and are desperately trying to grab your attention for the last couple of times before your fear of panic completely ends and anxiety is brought to a regular level. I recommend you set a goal that you weekly go over some of the chapters in this audio program again. This will firmly set into your mind the knowledge needed to help desensitize yourself from your fears. Your momentum is just beginning. Fear creates an internal war that manifests itself into your physical world. But we are beginning to understand that our imagination can in fact be incredibly scary. Would you agree with me? I remember an incredible quote that I continue to carry on a card with me daily that I want to share with you, and really take a second to think about it after you listen to it. Here it is. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do, and as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same, as we are liberated from our own fear, and our presence automatically liberates others. I challenge you to let your true light shine from this day forward, to truly be in the business of hope and become a model for others who are dealing with their own mental health. To look at each day as a gift rather than a struggle. Remember, you are now on the road to recovery. You have all the tools. You have all the knowledge. You have all the support. And you have the will to apply them all towards your daily recovery. Do not feel ashamed to celebrate even the smallest victories you may be experiencing throughout your day. You deserve it, and don't let anyone, not even yourself, convince you otherwise.